So again, welcome everybody. I haven't taught these satsangs, these open sessions in a while. I've been busy with so many other things that I just haven't had time for it. And also my students, acharyas and other teachers have been doing it. But now that a few teachers are taking a break, that's why I'm doing it this autumn. Let's see if I will continue next spring, but at least I'm doing these autumn sessions. And it's kind of lovely, you know. I used to teach so much for years. Actually, this October that now started marks 15 years, 15 years of myself being a full-time teacher. And I used to teach so much, like for most part of my teaching career I was living in Helsinki, Finland, where I was teaching in different yoga studios and different spaces, and also traveling a lot for teaching. So, you know, doing a lot of teaching work hour-wise. But now and I kept doing it for a good number of years, quite a few years. And then in 2017, my teaching activities shifted from Finland to abroad, UK, Ireland. I was invited there and went there teaching every month or so for how many years? About 3 years before COVID hit. And after that, of course, like everything else, activities have shifted to Zoom, the internets. So, so since COVID started, most of teaching activities have been in the internet, and well, during year and a half, we've also had live retreats. By the way, the next live retreat is probably next spring retreat in Switzerland. So just to let you know, the team there, the German-speaking team, were willing and eager to arrange it. So that's probably the next live retreat. Having said that, the house where we live now and where I live now, it's been consecrated as an ashram, as a practice place, as a place of training. So there will be some trainings here also already from the beginning of the year, but I think it will be later in the spring when the trainings here will be open to the whole Sangha. So the first trainings that will happen here will be like a invitation only type situations. Yeah, so these Thursday sessions, so you know, there's like a dozen or so Thursday sessions during this autumn, and this will not happen every Thursday. So please look the dates so that you don't miss dates. And regarding the practice content, during previous seasons of training, now we just started autumn training season in September, you know, I've had usually themes for teaching, some topics, some themes, but I didn't want to take one or even two themes for these Thursday satsangs because I wanted to keep it open. You know, we are a sangha that practices tantric or mantric yoga. The word tantra, you know, has some people associate the word tantra with sexuality and practices that enhance sexuality. So just to be clear that we don't do those activities in this sangha, but this is traditional tantric sangha or mantric sangha. So there's, you know, when Our main practice is tantric, but practice of tantra and theory of tantra always requires understanding of sutra as well. So what did I just say? So practice of tantric yoga means that there are empowerments given by teachers, in this case myself, who am the founder and head teacher of Amrita Mandala. And so there is empowerment. And there is the main practice of all tantric paths is Guru Yoga. And Guru Yoga means inviting the blessings and feeling and meditating in the presence of a Mahasiddha Guru. Mahasiddha Guru, what does that mean? Mahasiddha means somebody who has attained full enlightenment. And Guru, can be used kind of loosely for a teacher, but it really means, when I use it, it means a master. So, for example, in our Sangha for many years, since the beginning, since 15 years ago when I started teaching, we've been practicing Guru Yoga with Jesus, Ishanath, Babaji, Guru Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, and a number of other masters, number of other Mahasiddhas. So empowerment, Guru Yoga, and through empowerment comes practice of mantras. Mantras means saying that somebody practices mantra is a synonym for practicing or cultivating deities. Deities, what does that mean? It doesn't mean some spirits or some random entities. No, Tantra is a method and methodology. So depending which lineage of Tantra we are talking about, there is a number of deities that are practiced by the practitioners of the lineage in question. And in our lineage there are roughly, how many, 24? Something like 35 different deities. If you count both Buddhist Tantra and Hindu Tantra together, the number of those deities, it's roughly 35 or so. And already the first empowerment of Rainbow Body Yoga, which is the main practice from the Buddhist Tantric side in our lineage, it contains 12 different deities. So in Rainbow Body Yoga there is a short mantra that cultivates those 12 deities. But what does a deity mean? Deity is, so we work with two types of mind, two modes. And this is, the two modes mark our teachings from the beginning. You know, the very first technique that we recommend to newcomers is the so-called two-part formula. Formula that has two parts or two modes. And this specific title, two-part formula, is used for this technique practice that generates the first awakening experience, or technically speaking, first bhumi opening, which is the center, the energy center in the central channel on the level of eyes here. This is where the so-called subject self, which is the grossest form of self-based delusion, that's where it sits, behind the eyes. And the two-part formula is a technique that aims in that type of delusion and pops it, removes it. So two modes. And this applies not only to two-part formula, which is the first practice to open the first bhumi, but it really applies to the whole path. And it applies to purification of the so-called nadi channels, as well as purification of the so-called meridian channels. I understand that. Oh, I think I'm already in trouble because maybe I'm using too much technical language. So my apologies for that. Um, but there are books that help you to understand. We have a number of books freely available from our website. So uh, by all means, read those to better understand and to understand with time what I'm explaining here. But I'm giving like a nutshell explanation of um, what we practice and how it all works. So two modes. And this applies to our method. It really applies to, or how should I say, it should apply to all other methods. So every one of us, you and I and everybody else, I have my dog is sleeping next to me on the couch. Even she has pure and perfect, clear nature, awakened nature. My dog, she cannot say mantras and cultivate it, but she has it. Um, what she likes to do, how she likes to practice is that when I start teaching, she comes close to me and starts resting, has blissful, peaceful sleep. But two modes. So we have this pure and perfect nature. And this is very easy. You know, people often intuit that they have it. People read about awakening or enlightenment, be it from whatever type of source, from Ramana Maharishi to Eckhart Tolle to Buddhist authors to perhaps some New Age um, source, and they intuit that yes, that is true, that I have this uh, nature of purity in me. And that's the first mode. This mind, this pure nature of ours, it really has been made into a priority in our method, that we have techniques that enable recognition of this pure basic nature within seconds, at least within a minute. So this is a high priority in our method. Um, and well, perhaps I'll just leave it there without commenting on other methods. But that's the first mode. So recognition, experiencing, in common terms, experiencing, in a bit more technical term, recognizing that there is this pure being in me, in everybody. So that's number one. That's the first mode. And the second mode is working with the mind stuff, with the stuff in our psyche, whether in the form of dualistic self-delusion or in the form of trauma. Working with that mind stuff, stuff in the psyche, and you could say, you know, tantric tradition uses different terms for this, but liberating it, purifying it, transforming what is dirty, like dirt in the system, junk, filth in the system, kind of like a dirt on the surface of a window, cleaning it, purifying it, transforming or returning it to the original natural condition. So that's the second mode. So we call, the way how I like to term these two modes is selfless mode and self-based mode. So mode that is selfless. No, we talk about self entity, me, I, mine. We talk about that a lot in our method. And the reason for that is because us being lost and confused about who we are, perhaps, and usually confused about our purpose and meaning in the world, is related to this sense of self, sense of me-ness or I-ness. And so this has been extensively and in detail explained in many of the lectures and talks that I've given and in the books. So in case if you're joining your first session with me, there's plenty of material for you to study and explore about this. But what the sense of self does is that it contracts us, makes us small. When we have trauma reaction, there's something traumatic has happened, perhaps a single event, or perhaps a developmental trauma that has accumulated, trauma that has accumulated over a long period of time, perhaps something trauma related, or perhaps something strictly self-centered, egoistic. It contracts us and makes us feel small and unnatural. All kinds of emotional reactions, anger, greed, jealousy, what is that? Envy, depression. Did I already say anxious? I guess I did. And on it goes. All of that stuff is built on the notion of self, me, I. All of it. So selfless mode and self-based mode, working with these two. Always a priority to cut through all mind stuff. Like I said, that it's a priority in our method to always establish and find your way to selfless, pure, clear-minded recognition, whatever the situation. So we have all kinds of techniques to enable that, and this is very important. So, you know, a practical example, one might be very depressed, properly depressed. I had pretty bad depression when I was a teenager. Over 20 years ago or so, there was a period when I was properly depressed, have had anxiety a lot, panic attacks and so on, fear, like I'm sure everybody here has had these mind states. So whatever the mind state is, it means that in our subtle body, commonly called mind, in our mind or psyche, but in Tantra, because Tantra is focused on working with energy and energies, that's why this mind is called subtle body or energy body. So we're talking about subtle body or energy body that is made of different energetic centers, commonly known as chakras, and energy channels, commonly known as nadis or meridians. Nadis and meridians are not the same, but there are two types of channel systems in our subtle body. So that's an important distinction also to know and to understand. So we might be having, for example, very strong anger, very strong resentment, jealousy. We might be brooding over stuff, brooding. I remember one British student, he was saying that this was from the time when he wasn't practicing meditation before, and he said that there was some meeting with colleagues who were also competitors of his professional field. And one of these colleagues had said something, kind of a joke or something like that, that really upset this person, my friend. And then the situation had passed, and with a really straight, serious face, he was telling me this story and saying that he was brooding over that moment when this colleague said the thing to him over 5 years. Brooding over some, joke that was not like a sincere, playful joke, but kind of like a elbow in the elbow in the side. And he was brooding that, I really should have said this in return. And if I was in that moment now, I would really let him know that, you can't make jokes like that of me. This kind of brooding. So that's a very good example what happens to us, isn't it? So we get entangled in these mind states, these whatever it is. Sometimes could be aggressive. Sometimes our thoughts go into really weird and even violent places, isn't it? So whatever it is, we have practices to cut through it. Make a hole in the subtle body. Make a hole in the aura. Cut through all of those layers of self-centered brooding, self-centered mind habits and patterns, so that our basic nature is made to appear. This pure, already perfect nature is made to show up and appear, so that it can be experienced and recognized. I think that this is really what all methods should be able to do. So 2 modes, prioritizing one, and then from that selfless recognition, looking back to the mind that makes us deluded or takes our energy, perhaps in the form of anger or anxiety. When you're in very strong fear or very strong anger, very strong any mind state, it drains your vitality. You become very tired, exhausted. You could maybe say that those kind of mind states are kind of designed to, they really drain us from vitality and energy, isn't it? But it's the exact opposite with this pure basic nature. This basic nature in Buddhist tradition is called Buddha nature, awakened nature, nature of mind, natural state, basic state. I like to use these terms. So yeah, working with these 2 modes, it goes through the whole path. Goes through the whole path. From the unawakened state, when we start opening the first bhumi here, start going after the first awakening experience, it starts from there, working with 2 modes. And it keeps going through the whole journey through bhumi openings and bhumi perfections, the whole bhumi or nadi side of practice. This side in our method is called Path of Wisdom and Clarity. The main practice there is Rainbow Body Yoga. But it also applies to the path of healing and light that works with the meridian system. 2 modes applies. How long have I talked? 30 minutes, not longer than that. I have to keep a track on the time because it could have gone hour and 45, so I have to check myself. So what else? What would be good to... So we have 2-3 hours for these Thursday sessions, and on probably all sessions I will speak some, explain the method to some degree, but I also want us to practice. Practice together, try some of the practices that we have. Oh, and yes, what I was meaning to say is that I was saying that it is necessary to understand sutra, which means non-tantric practice, to understand tantra, to understand the principles under tantra. So that means that we have lots of practices. All tantric methods have lots of practices. And also our method has, there is a catalog of practices that I published maybe 5-6 years ago, but it has been offline for maybe 2-3 years because it needs to be updated. So it really hasn't been available except like a few years. But a catalog of practices which has something like maybe 50 or 60 different practices. So this is very common in tantric methods, that there are lots of techniques. And the purpose for that is that when you have a wide range of different practices, some practices that emphasize physical body, some practices that are artistic, some practices that are musical, some practices that musical, artistic, like singing, dancing, painting, something like this. Practices that are strictly yogic, which is what everybody does, of course, and so on. So there are different types of practices, so that people can choose whatever they want to, however they want to spice up their meal. So this is also the reason why, like I said, I didn't want to have a fixed theme or plan for these Thursdays, because I want to look into that catalog of practices that we have. And I've been meaning to, I was so busy when I was living in Finland with all kinds of things, so for a while I haven't really had time or energy to update that book or finish some other writing projects that I have. But now that I'm here down south, I hope to finish the updating of the practice catalog soon, and it will be freely available on the website. So I think we should start, well, we always start from the beginning in a sense, because the whole path and the whole method, sutric method, tantric method, the whole path of enlightenment really is summed up in some basic practices. So I would like to start in this session, start from there, and we still have up to 2.5 hours for exploration. So let's start practicing together, and I will guide you through it. So please align your posture. Some of you who haven't joined our sessions before, just to let you know that when it comes to physical posture, tantrics are usually pretty relaxed about it. So, I started my training over 20 years ago in Zen Buddhism and practiced for a number of years. And for example, in Zen Buddhism, it is very strict how the body should be aligned and how one should sit. But on the tantric side, it's much more relaxed. So if you have some physical problems with your back or some other problems that prevents you from sitting upright, it is perfectly fine to lie down parts of the session or even whole of the session. The thing is that if the physical posture is painful or uncomfortable, then it starts stealing the attention from where it should be. And that's why simply align your body in natural, upright, but also very comfortable posture. The weight of your upper body should be resting on the sitting bones, which are the bones at the lower part of the buttocks. There where buttocks meet thighs, that's where the sitting bones are. So you can perhaps do a pendulum movement with your spine so that you keep your spine straight and you let the upper body do pendulum movement back and forth so that you feel where the sitting bones are, and then you can let the movement become smaller and smaller and smaller until it stops and the weight of the body rests on the sitting bones. And let chest and shoulders relax. Let your whole being relax. This is not the kind of practice where you have to be mindful about things all the time. So just relax. Physically let go. What we do because of our subconscious mind, which is where all the stuff is, mind stuff is that we hold on to things. And we stop doing that physically when we just relax, when we let go. I often use the analogy that you're not holding the pigeons in the cage locked up, but you open the doors of the cage and let the pigeons fly free. Similarly, with deep tensions in the body, you just let them release. Let them fly free like pigeons. Pay attention so that you don't start falling asleep. There is practice where one learns to remain aware of falling asleep while letting it happen, but we are not doing that practice now. So if you know that you start getting sleepy, drowsy, become more attentive. more sharply aware. We'll take a bit more time, like proper time, to let the body relax really deeply while being aware of it. So we are not thinking about stuff or planning about stuff. You're simply feeling the body. You know that relaxation happens. You're aware that relaxation happens. What is really important is that you let muscles in and around the eyes relax. You're not moving your eyeballs and not tensing the eyes at all. Let eyes be relaxed. Also, let mouth be relaxed. Breathing through the nose, unless your nose is stuck. Feeling the body from the inside rather than looking at the body from the outside. Feel the body from the inside. So the body can be felt in two different ways. You can feel it, be aware of it all at once. Or you can scan through the body, different parts, different cavities of the body. Scanning through the cavities, it means that, for example, that your attention, your awareness is inside the head and aware of the insides of the head. Scanning through the head, different areas of the head for some time. The whole space inside the head. And then after you spend some time in the head, you go through the neck and throat and might stop at neck and throat area for a while until you scan downwards, inside the arms, inside the hands, inside legs, inside the torso. So this is what body scanning means. And what happens here is that body and mind, in very simplistic terms, become closer together, become unified. I know that some of you have met especially Zen Buddhists, Zen Buddhist teachers and masters what is really typical to practice systems that emphasize this kind of embodied sitting is that they appear physically different than non-practitioners. So this body scanning or unifying our attention or awareness with the body, it's really a basic practice. Very important also in our method. I often need to remind our Sangha members, my students, to do more silent sitting, more embodied sitting. So often tantrics tend to repeat mantras or do some other techniques at the expense of embodied sitting. But embodied sitting is very important because it also integrates energies. Having said that, as a practice, if we think of embodied sitting or body scanning, this technique, to make it into a method, it also has limitations. And one big limitation is that if you only do this practice, you very easily get hooked up or stuck with subtle states of mind, peaceful states of mind, subtly foggy states of mind. This is, if you read a Buddhist tantric literature, they speak of substrate consciousness, that practitioners get stuck with substrate consciousness. It simply means that practitioners practice in this foggy state of mind where there are no sharp impulses of the mind, but that there are these subtle, like a subtle fog there. And it is definitely true, and my observation also, that in most methods, in most lineages, practitioners mistake this subtly foggy state of mind to basic state. But the two are very different. So this is where tantric practices are excellent, because through deity practice, through guru yoga, they really clarify this point, the difference of basic state or natural state and these subtly foggy states of substrate consciousness. It also depends on one's advancement in practice. If somebody is a total beginner or a relative beginner, let's say practicing for the first year or second year, third year, it might not feel so good or comfortable in the body. We come to practice from the world of delusion, what in Buddhism is called samsara, samsaric world, which means that in samsara we have our own self-delusion, and we live among others who have this self-delusion and all these self-based habits and reactions. So we might come to practice very knotted, tangled up, messy and messed up. Many come to practice like that, myself included. So in the beginning, simple sitting like this might not feel that great because there is so tight knots, so difficult unresolved issues, psychological issues, whatever. But at the same time, if we want to really know ourselves, that's a very, very secular way of putting it. But when yogis and yogas speak of knowing oneself, it means if we want to be enlightened, bodhi, awakened, then it is all that stuff that we need to come in terms with. Gradually accept. And it is a gradual process. It is not that we can come into terms and liberate all the knots and tangles and stuff. We cannot do it in an instant. It is a process because we are organic creatures. And that requires time and efforts. So it can be rough and tough in the beginning. It can get rough and tough even when you become a bit experienced. And at times it can be rough and tough even when you're advanced. At times. But at the same time, when we practice correctly, so that we use those two modes, that we have ways to recognize our pure nature, then it also keeps getting easier throughout our career of practice. And that's of course a sign that the method works. If that development or growth didn't happen, then we would remain completely samsaric, deluded, we would keep feeling bad. But from the beginning until the very end of the ultimate great perfection, so-called light body or rainbow body, you are working, we are working with our darkness and heaviness. But the way to liberate those dark, heavy states of mind is to make friends with them, accept them, accept the pain, accept the delusion, accept the hurt. What is also common in the beginning is that You might not feel, for example, your legs below the knees. I have sometimes even heard that somebody doesn't feel their lower body from below the navel at all. Especially in the modern society, people are so detached, far from their bodies, that when they start feeling their body, they can't even feel it. This is not dangerous, but over time one will start feeling. If you don't feel your hands or feet or legs below the knees, it will come. But this physical body, which the subtle bodies or the mind is directly connected to, this is the instrument of yogis and yoginis. When I say yogis, I refer to both genders, but yogi and yogini would be the correct way to address male practitioners and female practitioners. But this is our instrument. There is no such thing as enlightenment of the mind only without the body. No such thing. At least to us human beings, no such thing. Because we are in physical bodies. And this is the reason why in Tantra, whether we are speaking from the Buddhist side or Hindu side, whether we are speaking Taoistic Tantra or Taoistic esoteric practice, there is the view that body is something very positive. Very positive. Not negative, not an impediment, not obstruction. Like that view is in some systems, that the body is a problem. But in Tantra it's the opposite. Body is the solution. Body is helpful. Whatever regarding the body, it is the path, and to be brought to the path. No matter how we look, whether we are short or tall, thin or fat, handsome or not as handsome as some models, male or female, it's good. And we should really develop, as yogis, as tantrics, we should really develop this acceptance of our physical form, however our form is, and also our sexuality. In many spiritual and especially religious styles, sexuality and genitals is, as you know, it gets very, very weird when sexuality and our sexuality is denied, prohibited, or discussed in unnatural ways. In Tantra, in yoga, it's the opposite. Accepting our sexuality, accepting our physical form, having no problem with our private parts, but accepting, making the body as the path. This is of course a therapeutic point, isn't it? Accepting our physical form as it is. Not whipping ourselves, oh, I should be 5 kilos lighter to be even close to looking like Matt Damon or Brad Pitt or Salma Hayek, some beautiful lady on the feminine side. If we go down that path, there is no end to how much can be fixed. So it is a very therapeutic point. It's kind of a point that is kind of sneaked into the Tantra, the whole Tantric methodology, that one accepts the body. Very therapeutic. People have so much dissonance and problems with how their bodies look. My muscles should be bigger, I should be thinner, I should be lighter. Women think about their breasts and their butts and their thighs and on and on. But be okay with how you are. One of the great advice that I got from Babaji, he said that be yourself, find your own way. There's a lot of, in those two sentences, be yourself and find your own way, there's lots of depth, lots of different types of meanings. But be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. And if we accept ourselves with our weaknesses, strengths, with our bodies as they are, that is very empowering. Makes us strong. Removes doubts, insecurities, fears. Isn't it? So the point of that, or this fact that we accept our bodies, is to cut through fears and doubts. Not letting fears and doubts to drive us or to be our motivation to do things. Stopping that program. We all have the same enlightened nature, awakened nature, but we are all different. We have similar stories, but at the same time there are unique points to our lives, to our experiences. And this is also exactly how it should be. Be yourself, find your own path. Don't try to be somebody else. We can take, of course, influences and aspire to gain some of the same qualities that somebody else might have, or some skills. But that is to make ourselves more stronger and beautiful and confident and natural. Again, not driven by fear to become like somebody else or to be able to do what somebody else does, but coming from a place of contentment in us, And what is that place? What is that thing that empowers us? It's our own basic nature. So, for us as practicing yogis and yoginis, it's a requirement for us to be practitioners, to be counted as practitioners, to sit and be present like this as ourselves. Sitting, being present with our physical bodies. And in this way, through doing this, through being like this, discoveries can be made. Important discoveries about who we are and who we are not, or shedding light on our actions and decisions, or just, getting healed by sitting like this. Healing happening in the physical body, organs, nervous system, the whole physical organism, or some mind-related therapeutic healings can happen. But don't start expecting these things to happen. Just sit. There is no need to start thinking or planning or wishing or regretting. Just sit. Whatever it is, whatever you have come up or have happening in the mind, sit with it. Accept it. All right, very good. Take few deep breaths. Inhale and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale. Do a few more. Then you can move your fingers and wrists, create some movement in hands. Create some movement in the feet, toes, ankles. Create some movement in the muscles of the face. Make funny faces. Stretching the face. Create movement in the arms, shoulders, chest, upper body. Stretch, move in any way you like. All right. I need a fresh mug of tea. Maybe you need also. So let's take 15 minutes and continue at 1:45. See you in 15. How was that sitting? Feel free to share. Let's talk about this. Is important, talking about what we experience during practice. Yeah, you can, anybody, you can just start speaking.
Okay, thank you. So what is always very difficult for me if it comes to embodied sitting is the fact that after 3 or 4 seconds, my thoughts come up about what happened yesterday, what will probably happen tomorrow, what I will do next. And all this thinking machine really nearly never stops. And then I think I do not really do embodied sitting. I just follow my thoughts like I do anytime.
Mm-hmm. Is this a problem for you at other times? Mind being so busy with thoughts?
Yes, definitely, nearly always.
Okay. And you feel that it is like an issue, like a problem, that it makes you distracted?
Yes. And
Right,
I realize it most of the time when I meditate, but even in my day-to-day life, I more and more realize how much my thought eats all my attention.
right. Yeah, well, I used to have the same problem. I know, I guess, everybody knows. Even if your mind, somebody's mind, isn't busy all the time, we all have had experiences when it is hectic up here. So what to do then? This question I could address in generally, like in giving like a general answer to it, but also practices to help with that. But well, maybe I'll just give a brief answer from both perspectives. So, well, this is very typical problem we have nowadays in the modern world because it's so head-centered, the world, and not body-centered. But they already said it. Switch from the head to the body, and even though the head with its thoughts, the mind with its thoughts is keeps persisting, keep persisting back. Switch it back to the body, bring it back to the body. This is what they tell you. This is how I spent my first 4 years practicing all day, every day, in switching to the body. So this is very common practice instruction in, I guess you could say, in all schools of and all vehicles of Buddhism, all three vehicles. The most basic instruction, learning how to switch from the mind, and it's often called monkey mind, monkey that jumps from one branch of tree to the other branch and keeps jumping around. So you interfere with that. You stop the mind from doing it. And what is important to understand about this instruction, that as long as it makes one's energies, what is that word? As long as this monkey mind affects one's energies in a way that it disperses energy, so that it makes you tired, it makes you unable to do whatever you're doing, then we need to interfere it. But there is a point in practice when it stops being a problem, even when the mind associates from one thought to the next. So these two stages are different stages, and the stage that you're describing, Mark, is something that you need to address. And from the general's perspective, from general advice I can give is that, yeah, you just feel your body instead. Every time you notice that it comes up to the head and the roulette with thoughts begins, you feel the body instead. And that's it. so that's very simple, very general advice. Like in meditation methods, it could be, here the object of focus is the body. So you feel the body instead of being distracted by thoughts. But it could be like what I used to practice in my Zen days. For most part of my time in Zen was to put the attention to the breath. Not have mind jump in thoughts, but make the mind follow the breath in the belly. So there are different techniques for this, but we don't really do much breath following in Amrita Mandala, although there are also breath following practices, but in Vimala Mitra's teachings, but I'm not gonna go there now. It has been many years since I taught the set of Vimala Mitra's meditations, so maybe I should do it soon again. But anyway, from general perspective. From specific Amrita Mandala perspective, the answer is quite different. So, what to do when your mind is busy? My first thought would be to practice dynamic concentration, shouting practices. Physically shouting if you are alone, if you are in space where you can use your voice loudly, or you can, how do you call it, like when you shout but don't produce actual sound with your throat, with your vocal cords. So like a whispering shout. Just shouting but without voice. So that would be my first option. Another option is physical dynamic concentration, Vajra body in other terms. Those two, because with both types of dynamic concentration, it has very strong cutting element. So, you're talking about this spinning wheel of thoughts, and you just need to stop it. You need to cut through it. As long as it is a problem, again, as long as it is an issue for you. So, there you have it. But it will, when you keep practicing, Mark, this problem will go away. Simply because that happens with the advancement of openings and perfections of bhumis. It will go away. So don't worry about it. It will naturally, at some point you will notice that, oh, I don't have this issue anymore. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure. Other comments?
Me and Jenna have been lately done this kind of just basic silent sitting practice more and more as an integration I have done it throughout the day, mini sits and longer sits in the evenings and mornings when I can.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just feels good, better, at least for me. Yeah. Yeah.
What does it mean when it feels better?
It feels better that I don't go into my like just what Mark said, that I don't I cut my I cut through the mind stuff just relaxing. And when I relax, I kind of observe a more subtle way how I'm going again into my mind, and I found myself more self-based kind of mode. And when I do that more and more, I kind of do it also in my daily life more and more. And then it's all day is integration more and more. And I found it that way very, very important kind of basic tool to have. And that's why I have addressed it more last couple months.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear that. I think that it's one of those things, our Sangha is Sangha of lay people. So many of us have full-time jobs, families, and other responsibilities that, of course, take a lot of time. So for many, I think for most in our Sangha, it becomes a matter of which practices are most important from the perspective of not so much of kind of gaining yogic experience, but focusing on prioritizing the central matter, which is getting to know ourselves as awakened beings, which means openings and perfections of bhumis, and then resolving traumas from the meridian system. So, because we are lay people, that matter gets prioritized. But there are also people in our sanghas, such as you two and others, few others, who sit more than 1 or 2 hours a day and who have the opportunity to do that. And that is wonderful because, well, I don't know, all those people who sit for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, some of them don't want to become teachers, but I think some of they or you do want to become teachers. And I've been talking about this for years, that in the world, and especially in the West, well, modern world, I should say, because in the East also, it's really modern society, modern city living for most people. So we need professional yogis who are really experienced and seasoned, also as meditators, which is what you're talking about. Not only having the insights and growth in the basic state, and not merely being enlightened, but also being like really seasoned and experienced meditators. This is, I think, something that is severely lacking in the world today, because we have doctors, we have priests. I don't think that many bring their questions to priests anymore, but traditionally we have doctors, priests, psychologists, therapists, but none of them are yogis. None of them have the expertise and skills and know-how as yogis do. So it is lovely to hear that that you two are practicing more than a couple of hours a day, and that there are others who also do this. At some point there will be a residential training center for Amrita Mandala, and for years I've been thinking about this, that the training will be partially, it will be tantric, lots of tantric practice, but also lots of meditation practice to develop this kind of understanding. So a lot of sitting when the center will eventually be there. And of course we've had center in Birmingham in UK where James is now, but you know, there hasn't been residential training there, like daily training, but this will take place in the future when somebody gives me $500,000 so that I can buy a place like that. From the mountains, of course. Nothing less will do. But yeah, lovely, lovely.
I wanna add to that. It kind of felt a bodhicitta calling for me, that if I want to be a teacher at some point, that I really, this is something what really needs to be on point, that I cannot miss these basic things.
Right.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I wanted to say that.
Yeah. And that's actually a really interesting point, that what I just said, that not only being enlightened, but also understanding methods and practices and having solid experience of those. Because in theory, not really in practice, but hypothetically, we could have somebody pop from completely self-deluded state into completely enlightened state just like that. It's not practically possible, but let's think hypothetically. But in such a moment of becoming enlightened, you don't gain that practice experience. You don't gain that experience and expertise of path or a journey. So that's what we're talking about. And it is true to, at the moment there are 20 people in our Sangha. I'm about to announce 20th person who has completed purification of bhumis. So we have 20 people at the moment in our Sangha who have reached that point, have finished wisdom side of the path of wisdom and clarity, right? But I haven't counted, but quite a large number of those people, maybe even half of those people, like 10, don't really have meditation experience. So they have done their practice at the side of their lay living, having a job, family, taking their kids to music lessons in the evening after work. So in small moments like that, they have done their practice, or sitting in a bus in the morning going to work or something like that. So the number of people who have finished path of wisdom and clarity but don't really have meditation experience, I think it's about half of those people, which is pretty significant. Yeah. But at the same time, number of these people have told me that even if their mind rests in this basic state, they don't really, because they don't have that meditation training that has lasted for many years or even decades, and haven't been trained in temples or meditation centers, they don't feel that confident in speaking about meditation practice, which is natural. But if we think of this in a bit more oriental setting or traditional setting, there has been saints, sages, who have been partially or even fully enlightened without having done much practices, or with having very little understanding or knowledge of practices. So these two are different, being enlightened and being expert yogi, being an expert meditator. All right, let's continue with practice. Metta is also doing some squeaky toy practice here. So we did some embodied sitting. So I was thinking of making this a bit more relevant with Amrita Mandala teachings, a bit more relevant with our subtle bodies. So let's start with sitting and then connect Bhumi pillars. This is like a simplified version of one of the staple practices in both paths of wisdom and clarity and path of healing and light. So take a moment to feel the body. You can close your eyes, relax body, let energies flow freely. Let energies flow freely. Those energies that come about in the form of thoughts, memories, emotions, let that energy flow freely. That's actually another important tool for Mark, what Mark was talking about, letting energies flow. Letting thoughts run. I am not going to go extensively into compassion and bodhicitta in this session, but we'll briefly think of others, think of sentient beings in all forms, and especially because each one of us, we are in the form of human beings. Taking a moment to think about the humanity and people around us, to generate bodhicitta, which means to generate compassion and care about the existence of others. So if we desire, if we want to attain full enlightenment, in Buddhist terms, if we want to attain Buddhahood, become fully enlightened Buddhas and Mahasiddhas, then we need to understand that we are not alone and we do not exist in vacuum, separate from each other. In fact, that exactly is the delusion or illusion that we exist completely independently as separate entities, each one of us. But we are, all life is connected through our subtle bodies. Physically, we might be separate. Well, this is a Zoom session, but if we were sitting in the same room all together, we would be sitting next to each other, so there would be physical space in between us. So physically, the connection of all life is perhaps a bit difficult or too abstract to perceive. but through the subtle body, our own subtle bodies, and the subtle bodies, the energy bodies of all life around us, human form, animal form, plant form, earth, sky, also non-physical worlds. We can perceive, we can see that all life is connected. And that is an important thing to see, to be able to perceive. If it sounds really high-flying, such things we start to perceive when we spend relatively much in meditation. Because when we meditate a lot, what happens is that the limitations set by our physical bodies and the perception of our 5 basic senses just crumble away. So we start seeing, hearing, feeling, perceiving in ways that we didn't before. Of course, this is something that yogis and yoginis have talked about their, let's say, being able to perceive things that people usually don't perceive. But yeah, all life is connected. That's why bodhicitta is so important, is taught in contemplative Christianity, is taught in Hinduism since over 10,000 years ago. I think it goes much, much farther back, but we have scriptures from about 10,000 years in Hinduism, in Buddhism for the past 2,000 or so years, in Taoism, same principle. So we practice to attain this perfect enlightenment, to become Mahasiddhas, perfectly attained beings and masters, masters of existence, for the sake of all beings, for the sake of all human beings also. For the sake of beings of this physical realm, first and foremost for us because of our physical form. Through expressing this motivation, our subtle bodies opens up. The aura that is made of nadi channels stretches open. Kind of like when you blow air into a balloon, it expands. Similarly, it stretches open our subtle body. This is the immense yogic gift of bodhicitta. For those who practice bodhicitta, not all meditators do. That balloon of aura remains in some methods passive, untouched, inactive, because there is no bodhicitta. Bypassed, remains bypassed. But we, according to Mahayana Buddhist teaching, as well as I said, contemplative Christianity, larger Hinduist teaching, we practice for the sake of all beings, for the sake of everybody. to sit with all beings is, I think, if I had to name one Mahayana Buddhist meditation, it would be this: sitting with all beings. And if you spend a lot of time doing that, you would finish 10 bhumis. Or what is in Mahayana, it's spoken as 5 paths and 10 bhumis. You would finish all of it just by sitting with all beings and remaining open. To the presence of all beings. All right, let's continue with the Bhumi pillars, which, like I said, is one of the staple practices in our method. So, both inside our body and outside our body, there are special centers or areas that are always pure, that always remain in the state of purity and perfection. And there are also areas and parts of our subtle body that get dirtied, that store karmic, samsaric, self-centered habits and patterns. But here we are, these areas can be found and cultivated from inside the body. But because it is easier to do it through the centers that are outside the body, is why we practice or connect the so-called Bhumi pillars. Sometimes I speak of Bhumi pillars or energy pillar, or vertical beam, vertical pillar. So let's do that. Feel your physical body for a moment. And then you can feel into the space below your body, at least 5-6 meters below your pelvic floor. You can just instantly feel into the space 5-6 meters below the pelvic floor and indefinitely farther. Like you can put your attention 10 meters down and you will still connect with the so-called Mahasiddha Bhumis or Mahasiddha centers that begin from 5-6 meters. Or if it's difficult for you to just feel it like that, you can think of descending down a ladder. Descending down a ladder. So you keep descending down 1 meter, gradually further down 2 meters, further down 3 meters, keep going down, descending down 4, and at some point, and you have to be kind of sensitive, you feel that, oh, there's a shift in energy, shift in feel. So as you bring your attention down, or if you just open, if you let the Mahasiddha centers connect, also feel that you have to have sensitivity to feel it. And what do I mean by shift? I mean that when those Mahasiddha Bhumis, those pure centers, get connected, you feel it in your energy, you feel it in your body, you feel it in your aura, you feel it in your energy, that there is this wonderful clarity, wonderful fresh energy, like being in completely pure, pristine nature during morning dew, all of a sudden. That kind of freshness. Maha Siddha Bhumis. That's a technical term, but it means ourselves as Buddhas, Mahasiddhas, ground of great perfection. What can also be done if for whatever reason you are not sure if it really clicks, if it really connects, we can also say a prayer or like a wish. May the Mahasiddha Bhumis, the Mahasiddha centers of my subtle body, below the body, be connected with the energy system of my body, with my body. May the pillar be connected for the sake of all beings. May each one of us, pillars below the body, be connected. All the channels, all the energies connecting naturally like they should be connected. That's the thing. These centers remain in a passive state for most people. They are there, but they're passive. You might feel some sensations in the pelvic floor area, lower body, perhaps in the gut, perhaps in the heart area. Might feel something in the hands or in the arms. Might feel something in the feet or legs. So when we connect the lower beam, then you just enjoy that, sit in that connection. If at any point you feel that the connection becomes less, the intensity of it becomes less, you can connect again. You can reach with your attention down, again connect the at least 5-6 meters with the centers. Just repeat it if necessary. If you feel that the connection is very good, then just enjoy it. extremely few traditions, methods know about these centers, but they are so important and so effective also as meditation practices. Most people and most practitioners in their systems, these centers are passive, but in the systems of fully enlightened men or women, masters, these centers are also fully active all the time. Not even 1% passive. That's the thing. And let's feel the connection, the pillar below, a little bit more. Makes you feel grounded, stable, peaceful. I often use the term bedrock peacefulness. Peacefulness that is like a bedrock, unshakable bedrock. And then let's continue to connect the upper part of the vertical pillar. So you can bring your attention to the chest, from chest to neck, throat, and from there descend up to the head and to crown of the head. And for those of you who have connected the pillars many times before, you can just open up from the crown and let that openness connect with the Mahasiddha Bhumis 5-6 meters above the crown, and it will happen. Or just like descending the ladder down from the pelvic floor, you can ascend the ladder from the crown. Just gradually climb higher until you feel that click, that connection. If you find it helpful, useful, you can also make that verbal prayer or wish when connecting the pillar above. All these ways are perfectly fine. What is also helpful is that lift your chin a little bit, like tilt your head a little bit backwards, just a little bit. And that is helpful when connecting with the pillar above. And then just relax into it. Remember, you are connecting with your own, the same pure centers of your own subtle body. the Mahasiddha that is inside you. So it feels like a relief. It can feel like an immense relief. Really relaxing, deeply relieving, and easy to trust. Relax with your whole body. Feel and receive with your whole body. Take it in with your whole body. With all cells of your body, nerves of your body, with your whole being. It can feel as if life is brought back into our being. Those of you who have learned Rainbow Body Yoga, you can flash the rainbow jewel and see if it enhances the energies just for a moment. would be lovely to just keep sitting together in this way. In your home, you can repeat this practice, hopefully without time limitations. And this is, of course, something that we staple practice, like I said, that we do on retreats a lot. But in this session, we are nearing the end of our time available. So please bring your attention to the area of the body, which is where we started. And just feel the body for a moment. Let's chant brief basic prayers. So first, may all beings be free 3 times. Then let's do a little variation. May all human beings be free 3 times. And then dedication of merit. Inhale. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May Same prayer for human beings. Inhale. May all human beings be free. May all human beings be free. May all human beings be free. Beautiful, beautiful, isn't it? And then dedication. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. Palm to palm. All right, ladies and gents. So this starts these Thursday satsangs for this autumn, and the next one will be on 26th, so in 1, 2, 3 weeks. But before the next satsang there will be the autumn retreat for 4 days, which starts on 20th, Friday, on the evening of 20th, and lasts until Tuesday 24. So you're all welcome for our annual autumn retreat. Yeah.
Can I ask a question
Go ahead.
about the autumn retreat? Is it on the last day, is it a full day of practice, or does it end in the morning, in the last?
The days on the first evening, it's just a couple of hours in the evening, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it's from 3 to 9 p.m. local time.
Okay.
It's actually in Finnish time zone, so it was scheduled before we moved. So so Kedar was just asking whether to change the time zone or not, but it's Finnish time zone. All the rest will be in Slovenian time zone, so the times will change a bit, but from 3 to 9 Finnish time zone.
So the last day also 3 to 9, the
Yeah,
last day of the retreat.
yeah,
Great. Thank
yeah.
you.
But it is like if you have something somewhere else to be, it's fine to be absent for a few sessions. My wish is that people join at least half of the sessions. Anything else? It's simple practice, but it's really lovely to do it in a group. Even online. Well, all right. Thank you for this, and see you in a couple of weeks. Please also remember donations. Please don't forget. Thank you for those. And see you in the next one. Okay? Cheers, everybody. See you later.
Thank you. Good